Um, let me ask you this question. You tend to go on a good number of short-term missionary trips and get students out there. You like going to Chicago is one that you tend to send people to, that you give them training in sharing their faith, and then they go out. Do you find people, the students, come back to that with kind of a culture shock, even and both within America, and then if you do take them overseas, or do you see that type of oh wow, people live way different than us, even if it's a short distance away?
Absolutely, I think that's one of the short-term mission trips have some different goals than long-term missions, and one of the benefits of short-term mission trips is just exposure. Just seeing that your world that you have here in for them Kalamazoo, Portage, or whatever, is different than the other parts of the world, and God is still working, and God is still moving in other parts of the world, and that exposure then shows both a combination of how, in a lot of cases, how well they really have it, and also and a world that needs Jesus. And so some of our students, they spend the majority of their time with people who already have a relationship with Christ. And so just that exposure, not only to sometimes poverty, but also to spiritual poverty, to those, just need to hear the gospel.
Yeah. So you have a trip coming up here this summer, I think. Is that correct?
We have two. So we're taking a group of 26 to St. Louis, and then 19 of us are heading to Panama. A combination of really, both meeting physical needs and spiritual needs. Both situations, both areas, we're going to be dealing with people who are probably, the exposure factor that you mentioned is going to be quite significant, I think.
Yeah. There's a kind of a philosophical debate where it's imagine yourself as a bat, and it's hard to do that because all you're doing is just imagining you in a bat, and so it's this idea of you can't actually get in there. But when I took just a normal trip to Costa Rica for half a month and just and live there for that period of time, it was a culture shock knowing that I was going to a place called Costa Rica that I did all this extensive research on, of what sites to hit and stuff, and it's just like, oh wow, the church can thrive here. So when I'm thinking of like the early church, having kind of that semblance in mind too, of like, okay, these people at least have like 3 days of money to buy their daily bread. Now half that and half that again, and you have the early church who are slaves who are working for daily bread, and also hearing the gospel, moving away from their center point of the Jewish faith, or they're moving away from the pagan aspect. It was a neat experience that grabbed me when I was there for 14 days, and I wasn't even doing missionary work. I was just saying, oh, here's a little church on the side of the road. There are Christians that go here. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. So do you have different goals with regard to the two trips? What are you trying to accomplish? Or is it the same? Or
I mean, the overarching, I think we have a general goals for all of our trips, right? We want to not only expose them to a new culture, a new place, but also hopefully expose them to the need for missions. So more important than any tasks that we accomplish while we're there, whether we don't want to, whether we're feeding the poor or whether we're building something, the reality is somebody else could probably do that, probably better than us, and probably cheaper if we were to just give money rather than take a whole team. One of the goals, probably the key goal, is by exposing them to another culture, to missions in general, is that we have students who are committed to missions as they grow. So whether that means they go on more short-term trips, or whether they start giving to long-term missionaries, whether they begin praying for those missionaries, again, getting them outside of their world and hopefully seeing just the significance and importance of those trips. Now, if it's an English-speaking country, or if we're in country like St. Louis, the gospel, we prepare them to share the gospel. We want them to be able to be ready. In fact, that's part of our meetings ahead of time. Obviously, if we're going international, that goal changes a little bit because of the language barrier. But a lot of times we do have opportunities to share testimonies, to share a lesson that's translated, and even more so being able to share the gospel, because they have to, when it's being translated, they really have to think through their words if somebody's translating, going through the work of trying to put it into the language. So yeah, I mean, the gospel it tends to actually be more front and center from our students on the domestic trips. However, we want to do everything we can to increase the local missionaries' ability to serve after we're gone. So on the international trips, if we can help them strengthen the relationship so they can get the gospel out, then by meeting a physical need, then that's part of the goal. So not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. And we might make note of the significant percentage of the folks who are from our church that have gone on to overseas mission. I mean, it seems like for a while, every year, somebody was leaving the church to go on to overseas mission, right? So I would think that's part of the deal, right? They were exposed as younger adults or whatever, and so that helped kind of feed the flames there.
Absolutely. I see mission trips as like greenhouses of spiritual growth, where we're there. A lot of times they're reading the Bible every day. They're praying every day. They're with other believers, serving the Lord, witnessing. They're all the things the Lord calls us to do. They're doing it for a short period of time, and it's not a mystery that they're growing on these trips. So not only, they're wondering, like, I don't know why I grew so much in that 1 week. Well, it's, if you did those things at home for a week, you'd probably grow too. So there's, but not only is it the long-term effects, but we do find that just a week where our students are cut off from the world, or at least from the distractions of usually their phones and things like that, it's helpful for their own personal growth. So again, not why someone goes into long-term missions isn't for their own personal growth necessarily, but short-term mission trips have a different metric than long-term missions as far as evaluating success.